Bismillah Rahman Rahim. In this video we will discuss the flyback converter. It is a DC to DC converter that provides isolation between input and output. So the circuit diagram of the flyback converter is shown in this slide. Here you can see the voltage source. It's a DC voltage source and it is connected with this primary winding. The secondary winding is connected with this circuit. So primary winding takes the energy from the source when your switch is in the on state, and when your switch is in the off state, the energy stored in the inductance that is transferred to your secondary winding or to the load. So the flyback converter can be analyzed by using the transformer model, which includes the magnetizing inductance. So we are going to replace this transformer with its equivalent model. So in this model you can see there are two windings, the primary winding and the secondary winding, and there is isolation in between. And here you can see the magnetizing inductance. Okay, so when the switch will be closed, the current will flow through the magnetization branch and through the switch, and this will be the path of the current. So energy will be stored over here. So we will analyze the flyback converter circuit by considering the equivalent circuit of the transformer that is shown over here. The effect of losses and leakage inductances are very important when considering the switch performance and protection. But the overall operation of this circuit is best understood with the help of the simplified transformer model. And during this analysis, we will neglect the transformer losses. We will neglect the leakage inductances. We will assume that output capacitor is quite large and the voltage at the output, that is V0, is nearly constant. And the circuit is operating in the steady state, right? And the next assumption is that our switch will be turned on for a certain interval of time, that is dt, because we are going to apply the gate pulses to this switch. So by applying the gate voltage, this switch will be turned on. And let's suppose that gate voltage is applied for the time T on, and we are operating this switch at a high frequency whose time period is this capital T. So this is the off time of our switch. So we define a term duty cycle. The duty cycle is the ratio of the on time with the total time. And let's represent this duty cycle with the D. So T on will be equal to D time T, where D is the duty cycle of your switch. So this interval can be written as D into T, T on. And the off time of your switch, that is this one, that can be calculated by subtracting the on time. So total time is T, on time is dt. So this is 1 minus d times the total time, and I will call 1 minus d as d prime. So this off time of your switch will be equal to d prime into t. So we will turn on our switch for the interval dt, and we will keep it off for the interval d prime t, that is 1 minus dt. And the next assumption for the analysis of our this circuit will be that all the switches which are being used, this switch or this diode, these are the ideals. Means there is no power loss across these switches, no dissipation, and they can be turned on and off within no time. So we will be considering these switches as the ideal switches. Basically, this flyback converter is derived from the buck boost converter that we will see in the upcoming slides. Now we are going to divide it into two parts to understand its operation. The one state of the circuit when your switch is in the on state, when your transistor is turned on by applying the gate voltage or the base voltage. So in that case, the path of the current will be analyzed and this circuit will be analyzed. I will call it mode 1. So mode 1, when your switch Q is in the on state, and mode 2 will be the state when your switch Q is in the off state. Okay, so we will analyze this circuit in two states, when your switch is on and when your switch is in the off state. So when your switch is in the on state, now let's look at this circuit and we discuss the path of the current and different voltages, those will appear in this circuit. Okay, so when your switch is closed over here, so what is the path of the current? The current from your source will travel through this magnetizing inductance and will pass through this switch and will complete its loop. So the voltage that will be applied across this magnetizing inductance will be having this polarity and the magnitude will be equal to your supply voltage. At that instant of time, the polarity over here is positive. It means the current is entering into the dotted terminal of your transformer. So if it is entering into the dotted terminal, it must leave from the dotted terminal on the other side. It means this point should be positive when this point is positive. So dot convention is very important. All the dots will be considered as the positive points. Okay, so when you are going to turn on the switch, the voltage at this point will be negative and the voltage over here will be positive. So it means your diode will be in the off state. It will not be conducting. Okay, so your diode, as you can see over here, is off. It is being represented by the open circuit. There is no flow of the current in this diode when you have turned on your switch, the first state. So Q is on, so it is represented by the short circuit and the current is going to flow through the magnetization branch of your transformer, right? And your diode is in the off state. There is no flow of the current in the secondary winding of your transformer, and that's why we are going to say that there is no current in the primary winding. No current in the primary winding, no current in the secondary winding. The current is passing through basically the magnetization branch that is being represented over here. In the real transformer, basically this will be passing through the transformer winding, the primary winding. But over here, we are using the model of the transformer, and for that we are considering that the whole current is passing through the magnetization branch and no current in the primary winding of the ideal transformer over here. Right? Okay. So we have the positive voltage at this point and we have the negative voltage at this point, and this point is positive and this point is negative, and because of the negative potential over here, the diode that was present over here is in the off state and there is no flow of the current from the secondary of the winding towards your load. But from the previous cycle, the energy that was stored in the capacitor that is providing the power to the load, so there will be a current in the load resistance. Okay. So now let's analyze this circuit when the Q is in the on state. The Q is over here, the switch that is in the on state. So because of that, now the voltage across the primary winding, that is V1, that will be equal to our supply voltage Vs, and the current will be increasing through this magnetizing inductance, and we assume that it will be increasing linearly because the circuit is operating at a very high frequency. So the inductor voltage, the voltage across this inductor, that is given as L di by dt. Using this, I can say that V1 is equal to our supply voltage, and that should be equal to Lm into dILm by dt. So Lm is the inductance of this magnetization branch, and the current through that is ILm. So the rate of change of current will basically determine the voltage across this inductor, the induced voltages. So I can write it like that dILm by dt, that is differential of ILm by delta t, so that should be equal to delta ILm by dt. Why dt? Because we are considering the interval for which our switch is in the on state, and we have seen over here our switch remains on for the interval dt. So that's why delta t is equal to d times t when our switch is in the on state, and delta t will be equal to d prime into t when our switch will be in the off state. Okay, so now moving back to the slide, here this delta t is equal to d into t because our switch is in the on state over here, that you can see. So delta ILm by dt will be equal to Vs by Lm, because this Lm will be shifted over here, right? So the change of the current in the time dt through the magnetizing inductance will be given by this expression, the voltage across the inductor divided by its inductance. So if I rearrange it for the delta ILm for the closed state, so that will be equal to Vs into d into t by Lm. So this gives us the change of the current in the magnetizing inductance. Okay, so this equation is obtained just by rearranging the terms in this expression. So this is the analysis of the primary side of your this transformer. Now let's look at the secondary side of the transformer. So what is the current in the secondary winding? The current over here, I2, that current is 0 because our diode is in the off state, so it is open circuit, so our current is 0. And what about the current in the primary winding? Because of this, because this is the ideal transformer, so I1 is also 0. The whole current is assumed to be passing through the magnetization branch, right? So now what is the voltage across the secondary winding? That depends upon the turn ratio. Let's suppose that the number of turns in the secondary is N2 and the number of turns in the primary is N1. So we can write that V1 by V2 should be equal to N1 by N2. So from here I can find out V2, that should be equal to V1 into N2 by N1, and V1 that we are going to apply over here at across this one, that will be the same over here, so that is equal to Vs, your supply voltage. So I can write it V1 is equal to Vs, so Vs into N2 by N1, that is this expression, right? So the voltage across this winding, secondary winding, will be plus minus, and that will be equal to Vs into N2 by N1, right? So what will be the voltage across your diode? The diode that is over here, it is reverse biased because of the negative voltage at its anode, so it will have to withstand the whole voltage that is present in the loop. So this is the loop. So the secondary voltage plus the load voltage will be the total voltage that will be applied across the diode terminal. So load voltage minus V naught and this voltage minus Vs into N2 by N1. The sum of these two will be the voltage that will appear across this diode. So your diode will have to withstand that voltage. And as it is negative, that's why your diode is in the reverse bias state. Right? Now let's move toward the waveforms for this switching state when our switch is in the on state. The Q over here that is turned on. So that instant of time, that is the interval dt. We are going to consider only this part. This is dt. Right? So our current through the magnetization branch is increasing, starting from some minimum value to the maximum value. This is IL maximum and this is IL minimum. So the current is increasing linearly in the magnetization branch. This is this current. Okay, and this current is being provided by your source. So the source current will be same. Whatever is your current in the magnetization branch, same will be the current through your source. And at that time, your diode is in the off state, so no current in your diode. The diode current is 0. And at that instant of time, your capacitor is providing power to your load resistance. So the capacitor current will be minus V naught by R. Right? And the voltage across your primary winding plus minus, that is equal to Vs. So voltage across your primary winding and voltage across your secondary winding will be equal to, you will have to multiply it with the turn ratio to get the voltage over here. But that is not applied to this part because your diode is in the off state. So whatever was the voltage across your capacitor in the previous cycle, that will be there across your load. So your capacitor will be providing power to your load. So the current through the capacitor will be delivered to your load. Right? So that current will be simply the voltage across this resistance. Let's suppose that is V naught divided by this resistance R in terms of magnitude. So that you can see over here. So this is the capacitor current in the first switching interval, that is dt. Right? Now let's see what will happen when we are going to turn off the switch. When we are going to turn off the switch, we are basically interrupting the flow of the current in this branch by turning off this switch. So inductor does not allow the abrupt changes in the current and it resists the change in current. So where this current will go when you are going to break the path, this current will take this loop now, that it will enter into this primary winding of the transformer in this direction. It is entering from the non-dotted end. Dot is over here. Right? It is entering into the non-dotting end. So from where it should leave? It should leave from the non-dotted end on this side, on the secondary side, because the secondary side is acting as the source. The primary side will be acting as the load in the first cycle. Okay, so it must leave. If the current is entering from non-dotted, it must leave from non-dotted, and that makes sense over here. And what will be the voltage polarity? This is the reference polarity. But when the current is going to take this loop and we are interrupting the current in the inductor, so it will resist by having the opposite polarity. So this point will be positive and this point will be negative. The dotted end is negative. So dotted end should be negative over here as well, and this point should be positive. So because of that, this diode will be turned on because now it has the positive voltage at its anode. Right, so that you can see over here, the diode is represented as short circuit, D1 over here. because we are considering the diode as an ideal device. No voltage drop across it. Right? Now there will be the flow of the current in this circuit through the diode. The high frequency ripple current will go through the capacitor and the average current will go through your load resistance R. Right? Now the current is going to flow in your secondary winding, and now the energy stored in your magnetizing inductance is now being delivered to the load. So when your switch is on, the energy is stored, and when your switch is off, the energy is delivered to the load and to the capacitor that is connected in parallel to the load. It stores energy, and when your cycle is goes to the on state, when your switch is turned on again, the energy stored in the capacitor is delivered to the load. Okay, so now let's look at that what will be the voltage that will be there across the primary winding now, because your supply is disconnected because the switch is in the off state. It is disconnected. So the current is going to flow over here, and this winding is connected in parallel to your load. So because of the parallel connection, whatever is the voltage over here, same will be the voltage across the secondary winding, and that voltage will be reflected back according to the turn ratio on the primary side, and definitely its voltage polarity will be opposite with respect to this reference polarity. So you can see the minus sign over here representing the opposite polarity, and the voltage V0, that's the voltage over here, reflected back to the primary side by the turn ratio, that is N1 by N2. So the voltage across the primary winding will be this one, and the voltage across the secondary winding is the load voltage, but with the opposite polarity with respect to the reference one. So V2 is equal to minus V0. Right? So V1 is equal to V2 into N1 by N2, and V2 is equal to minus V0. So that's why V1 is equal to minus V0 into N1 by N2. So now this is the voltage appearing across this magnetizing inductance. So L di by dt for this magnetizing inductance must be equal to V1, and the V1 is equal to minus V0 into N1 by N2. So by equating these two, we can find out the slope of the current through the magnetization branch. So dILM by dt, the rate of change of current over here, that is delta ILM by delta t, that will be equal to delta ILM by 1 minus d into t, because this delta t is now the off interval, and as we have seen in the previous slide, the off interval is d prime t, that is 1 minus d into t. So that will be equal to shifting this inductance over here, the only left part will be the slope over here. So dILM by dt will be equal to minus V0 by Lm into N1 by N2. And if I rearrange it for this part, the change of current in the open state of your switch, so that will be equal to this expression. So this gives you the rate of change of current when your switch is in the off state, or when your switch is open. So we have calculated the current change through the magnetizing inductance for this mode, and we calculated the delta I for the closed state as well, as you can see in this slide. And for the stable operation, the change in current when your switch is on and when your switch is off, that must be same, right? So from here I can write down this equation, and I can find out the output voltage equation. Delta I closed plus delta I when the switch was open, for the stable operation, the sum of these two must be equal to 0. No net change in the current. So we have evaluated their expression. This is for the closed switch state and this is for the open switch state. If I put up these expressions over here and I simplify, then I can find out the output voltage equation for this flyback converter. Right? So this is the transfer function. V naught output voltage divided by input voltage, that is equal to D over 1 minus D into N2 by N1, and I can also write it like that, V naught by Vs, that is equal to D over D prime into N2 by N1. So transformer turn ratio is very important. If it is equal to 1, you can see this is simply V by Vs, that is equal to D over D prime, and that was the transfer function for the buck boost converter. So basically the flyback converter is derived from the buck boost converter. It is an isolated version of the buck boost converter. Now we look at some other parameters of the circuit when your switch is in the off state. So when this switch is off, your diode will be on. So what will be the diode current? The diode current can be calculated by looking at the current and this loop. The current in the primary winding, that's I1. If you know I1, you can find out I2 by knowing the turn ratio of the transformer windings. But this current I1 is going to flow in the opposite direction. It should have entered from the dotted end. But now it is entering from the not dotted end, so we are going to consider it the negative one. Why? Because we have the opposite current on the secondary side as well. So the current in your diode, that is equal to minus I1 into N1 by N2, and this I1 minus I1 is basically equal to minus of the LM, ILM, the current through the magnetization branch. So that you can see over here, we can write ID as ILM into N1 divided by N2. And what will be the voltage across this switch Q1, switch Q? That will be equal to Vs minus V1. How? Let's first of all remove this one. Okay, now consider this loop. We want to look at the voltage across this switch. So it is minus Vs, and then the voltage across this primary winding, that will be summed. So now the voltage across these 2 points, these are to be determined, that will be equal to supply voltage plus the voltage across your primary winding, and primary winding is having the opposite voltage. If you look at the polarity, this is the reference polarity, but now at the moment the polarity is like this when your switch is in the off state, right? So because of the opposite polarity, the voltage across it is minus V1. So total voltage across the switch is Vs minus V1, and the V1 by itself is equal to minus V0 into N1 by N2. So you will get Vs plus V0 into N1 by N2. So that is the voltage that will be appearing across the switch terminal, and your switch will have to withstand that one. And what is the load current at this point? This is IR, that will be equal to the voltage across your load. Let's suppose that is V0 divided by the load resistance R. So that you can represent with this equation. And now what will be the capacitor current? The capacitor current will be equal to the current coming from here, coming from the diode. So we need to calculate this capacitor current. So from diode current, if I subtract the load current, so diode current minus the load current, so diode current is this one, load current is this one, so you can find out the capacitor current when your switch is in the off state. Okay, now let's look at the converter as a whole. Okay, but before going towards this slide, I am moving back to the slide where we were discussing the waveforms. When your switch was in the on state, the magnetization current was increasing, and when you have turned it off, now the magnetization current is decreasing. The slope is negative. And when you will turn it on, it will be rising and so on. Okay. So when this switch is turned off, what about the supply current? No supply current, because there is no path. No path over here. So supply current is 0. But from where this current exists in the diode? Because of the energy stored. The current that is over here, that is because of the energy stored. The energy stored over here. Now the current is going to flow over here, that's I1, and that is causing the current I2 over here. Right? So whatever will be the shape of your magnetizing current, the same will be there at I2, so that you can observe over here. Right? Okay. So when this path is closed, when this switch is in the off state, this path is closed, so the current is going to flow like this, and that will charge your capacitor and will also provide power to your load. So whatever is the diode current that you can see over here, that will be passing, the ripple of that one will be passing through the capacitor. Okay, and what's the voltage across your primary winding? It was plus minus like that, but now as you have interrupted the current in this inductor, so because of that, now the polarity is plus minus, it is opposite, so that you can observe over here, minus V0 into N1 by N2. Right? Okay, now let's move towards this slide. Let's assume that our converter is ideal. So whatever will be your output power or input power, that will be your output power. So PS, supply power, will be equal to your output power, and supply power is the product of the supply voltage and supply current, and the load power is V square by R. Right? Okay, so now if we look at the supply current will only exist for this interval of time when your switch Q1 or Q was on. This is your current from the supply. No supply current when your switch is in the off state. There is the magnetization current, but no supply current. That is because of the stored energy. Right? So how we can find out the source current, the average source current, or we can relate source current with the magnetization current. So average value of the magnetization current is somewhere over here. I am going to represent is as ILM, the average value, and the change in this current that we have already seen in the previous slides. So how to find out this maximum value? Maximum value of the magnetization current, that will be equal to the average value plus delta ILM, the ripple current of your magnetization current, divided by 2, and this minimum current, that will be equal to ILM minus delta ILM divided by 2. So this is the maximum magnetization current, this is the minimum magnetization current, and this one is the average current. Right? So average current is ILM, and that is going to exist for the on interval dt. So multiplying it with dt, we will get the average area when your switch was in the on state, and then taking its average over the complete cycle from here to here. So dividing it by t, we will get the average supply current. I have done this calculation over here, average supply current for this complete interval, but basically it is conducting for the interval dt. So supply current will be equal to ILM into dt divided by t. So t and t will be cancelled out, so our supply current will be simply ILM into d. This one, the average current through the magnetization branch into the duty cycle. Okay, so now replacing this IS over here with its value ILM into d. So this equation can be written like this. And then rearranging it for ILM, I can write it like this: V naught square by Vs into D into R. And we already know the transfer function of the flyback converter, that is this one. So using this value of V naught over here, I can write down ILM like this: the average value of the magnetization current. Right? So it can be written in terms of source voltage, or it can be written in terms of load voltage. So this is the equation in terms of source voltage, but with the help of this transfer function that is available to you, you can write down it in terms of load voltage as well by using the value from there. So the magnetization current, average magnetization current, will be given by this expression. I have already told you how to find out the maximum value of the magnetization current: the average value plus the half of the delta I that you can see over here. We have already seen the expression for ILM in the last slide, that is this one, plus delta ILM by 2. Delta ILM we calculated in the previous slide. If I go back, I can show you over here, delta IL by dt. Either you can use this expression or you can use this expression. Right? So for closed, from here, for the closed state of the switch, Vs dt by Lm, and for the open state of the switch, you have this expression. Both should be same for the stable operation, so you can use any of these. Right? So IL plus ILM by 2 will be the maximum value of the magnetization current, and the minimum will be IL minus ILM by 2. So we have these two expressions which are used to find out the maximum and the minimum current in the magnetization inductance. Now for continuous current, when you have turned on the switch, Q is on over here, up to interval dt, the current increases from some value to the maximum value, and then when you have turned it off for this interval d prime into t, the current will be decaying. So for continuous current, it must not reach to 0. Rather, it should reach back to the same level of the current that was there at the start of the cycle. But if this current reaches back to 0 before the start of the next cycle, we say that this is the discontinuous mode, DCM. We will analyze it in the next upcoming slides. But for continuous mode of operation, the current should not reach to 0. So IL minimum should be greater than 0. This minimum current should be greater than 0 to have the continuous current. Or in worst case, we can say it can just touch the 0 value. So considering that IL minimum is 0 in this equation, so from here I can say that this part should be equal to 0. It means this part should be equal to this part. So equating these two, VSD, this term from here, this should be equal to this term, right? And then writing this T in the form of frequency, T is equal to 1 by F, and then solving it for inductance. So you will get this expression for the inductance, and this will give you the minimum inductance, because we have applied the condition that IL minimum should be equal to 0. So with this condition, you have this value of the inductance from this expression. So it is the minimum inductance that is required to have the continuous conduction mode. If your inductance will be less than this minimum inductance, so your current will reach back to 0 before the start of next cycle. So in the next cycle, it will be starting from 0, will be rising to some maximum value, and then will come back 0 before the start of next cycle in the discontinuous mode. In the discontinuous mode, you have this zero state, zero current state. ILM is 0. But for continuous conduction mode, your ILM cannot stay at 0. Right? So this is the critical inductance or the minimum inductance required to ensure the continuous current. Okay, now using the closed state of your switch, we have the expression for the delta I, the current ripple of your magnetization branch, and rearranging it, we can find out the expression for the inductance, that is equal to VSD into T by delta ILM, right, and writing T in terms of frequency. So this is the expression for the inductance. We can calculate the inductance with the help of this, and we can find out the minimum inductance with the help of this expression. So for continuous conduction mode, our inductance should be more than this one. And what should be its exact value? That can be determined from here. What current ripple you want to have in your circuit. And then how you can find out the voltage ripple, as it is the buck boost converter. So all the concepts of buck boost converters can be applied. And we have discussed it. And we have derived this expression when we were discussing the buck boost converter. So the voltage ripple can be calculated with the help of this one. And the output voltage ripple due to equivalent series resistance of the capacitor can be calculated by multiplying delta IC with RC, where RC is the equivalent series resistance of your capacitor, and delta I is the current change through that one. So that will give you the voltage change because of equivalent series resistance across the load. So delta IC is this one, the maximum current of your magnetization branch referred to the secondary side by multiplying it with by N1 by N2 and then multiplying it with by RC. So as I have already explained to you that your flyback converter is basically derived from the buck boost converter. So now we can see it over here. So here you can see the circuit diagram for the buck boost converter, simple buck boost converter, non-isolated buck boost converter. So in this, if I develop this inductor with the help of two parallel wires, so this can be represented like that, 1:1 ratio, and both sides are connected. And then if I break these two wires, so I can represent it like that, isolated transformer, isolated windings, 1:1 ratio. And then if I bring this switch over here, as you can see, it will not change the operation. And the other thing that I can do, that I can change the direction of this diode by moving this dot to this side. Okay, so that you can see over here. If I put the dot on this side, now the direction of diode is changed. So what it is, this is basically your flyback circuit that we discussed in the previous slides. So you can have the isolated buck boost passing through these steps. First of all, represent your inductor with the two wires in parallel, then isolate them together, isolate from each other, change the position of the switch, change the marking of the dot, and you can introduce the boost action as well, or buck action as well, by controlling the turn ratio over here, because now it will be like the transformer. So you can, instead of 1:1, you can have 1:n. So this is your flyback converter derived from this buck boost converter. So isolated version of the buck boost converter is basically your flyback converter. Okay, so what is your flyback converter? It has a two winding inductor. The symbol for the transformer is same, but its function is slightly different. Energy is stored in the magnetizing inductance. Magnetizing inductance is very small, current does not simultaneously flow in the primary and secondary winding that we have discussed in the previous slides. Instantaneous winding voltage follow turn ratio, but your currents do not follow the turn ratio because of the energy stored in your magnetization branch. So your magnetization branch is represented in parallel to your primary winding over here, that is representing that how we can store the energy when our switch Q1 is in the on state, and when it is turned off, the energy stored is delivered through this diode to your load. So when our switch is in the on state, energy is stored, and when your switch Q1 is in the off state, your energy is delivered. We can perform the average value analysis to develop the transfer function of the buck boost converter. Previously, we have developed it by comparing the change of current through the magnetization branch in the on state and in the off state. But we can get the transfer function by volt second balance. Okay, now let's briefly discuss that how we can apply that concept. Your voltage across your primary winding is, let's suppose, VL, and that is equal to VG when your switch is turned on state of your switch. So your primary voltage is equal to VG, and at that time, if this is the reference direction of the current, but your capacitor will be providing power to the load. If this point is positive, the current must enter from here. So the capacitor current is minus V by R, and at that instant of time, Ig, the whole current is passing through this magnetization branch. Ig is equal to I. Now we say that there is very small ripple, and the average value, for average value we will be considering the capital letters. So VL, the primary winding voltage, is equal to VG. The current through the capacitor is minus V by R, average voltage across the load divided by the resistance will give you the average current through the capacitor, and Ig is the average current passing through your magnetization branch, that's I. And when your switch is in the off state, the second state, what's the voltage over here? The voltage over here is V, and that will be reflected back over here by the turn ratio, and the turn ratio is 1:n. So voltage on the primary side. Now what's the current in the capacitor? The total current coming from here, the current over here is I1 or I, that is reflected on this side, that will be I by N, and out of that I by N, some current will go through the capacitor, some current will go through the resistance. So this capacitor current will be equal to the total current minus the load current. So I by N minus V by R is the capacitor current, and at that time the input current Ig is 0 because it is disconnected, and considering the average values we have this one. So now if I look at the volt second balance equation, okay, taking the voltage across the magnetization inductance. So if I go back over here, when the switch is on, what's the voltage across our inductor? Our source is connected, so the voltage is plus minus Vg. So that you can observe over here, when our switch is in the on state, our voltage is Vg. And at that instant of time, what is the current through your capacitor? The current through the capacitor is minus V by R, right? So the current balance current waveform through your capacitor is minus V by R, and voltage across your capacitor is plus Vg, and your winding 1 is getting current from your source, so source current is Ig that exists during the interval dt when your switch Q1 is in the on state, and when your switch Q1 is turned off, your diode will be turned on, diode over here, that diode will be turned on, that is represented over here, right? At that instant of time, what is the voltage across your inductor? That is equal to minus V by N, load voltage reflected back to this side, and the average value is this one, minus V by N. And what's the capacitor current? I by N minus V by R, right? And what's the source current? Source current is 0. So now going back to this slide, in the second mode of operation, our inductor voltage is minus V by N, and the capacitor current is I by N minus V by R, and the source current is 0 for the interval d prime Ts when our diode D1 is in the on state. So now we can apply the volt second balance. Average voltage across our inductor should be 0. It means this voltage Vg multiplied by the time dt for which it exists plus the voltage minus V by N into d prime t, that should be equal to 0. Means average area covered by this waveform should be 0, and that you can see over here. Right, this should be equal to 0. dVg, this part, into d prime into V by N. So solving it, we can get the relation between input and the output voltage, that is equal to N into d by d prime, that we have previously seen, where N is the turn ratio from primary to the secondary. And similarly, if we look at the capacitor current, the average current through the capacitor should be 0. So average value of the capacitor current should be 0, and how to get that 1 ampere second balance? Minus V by R for the time dt plus I by N minus V by R for the time d prime t, that should be equal to 0. So t is over here and the t over here, so that t is cancelled out because we have 0 on this side. So we can get the expression for the current from here. If we solve it for the I will be equal to NV by d prime into R. Right? And what will be our source current? The average value of the source current. So that will be d into Ts into I plus d prime into Ts into 0. So it is simply d times I, where I is the average current when your switch is in the on state through the magnetization branch. Okay, now let's look at this example. Let's suppose that our input voltage is 24 volt, turn ratio is 3, magnetization inductance is 500 microohm, load resistance is 5 ohm, capacitance is 200 microfarad, switching frequency is 40 kilohertz, and the output voltage is 5 volt. We want to analyze this circuit. So we have developed the expression for the analysis. First of all, we will see that what is the duty cycle that is required. So we know that the transfer function for our flyback converter is this one. We know all the parameters just by plugging in and rearranging this one for the D. We can find out the operating duty cycle, which must operate at 0.385 to get output voltage of 5 volt when the input voltage is 24 volt. Now what will be the magnetization current? We have derived expression for that one. Just use that one, plug in the value. 540 milliampere is the magnetization current, and the current ripple now can be calculated with the help of this expression derived earlier. So the current ripple is quite high, 460 milliampere. So dividing it by 2 and then adding it with the average value. This is the average value. So the maximum value is 770 milliampere, and the minimum value will be obtained by subtracting 460 by 2 from 540. So that is 310 milliampere. And then we can calculate the voltage ripple using the expression of the buck boost converter. So 0.96% is the ripple factor, ripple in the voltage. Okay. So the current waveform, the average value is 540 milliampere. So the current waveform for the magnetization branch is this one. So average value is 540 milliampere. 540 milliampere. And what is this peak? Maximum and minimum. So delta ILM, as we have calculated over here, 460 milliampere. Let's write down over here. Delta ILM is 460 milliampere. So delta ILM by 2 is 230 milliampere. So 540 plus 230, you will get 770 milliampere. So this value, the maximum peak is 770 milliampere. And the minimum value of the ILM will be 540 minus 230, so that will be 310 milliampere. So your magnetization current will be varying from 310 milliampere to 770 and then back. So it is the continuous conduction mode because your ILM is not going to 0. Okay. Okay, now let's look at a design example. Let's suppose that we want to design a flyback converter. Output voltage required is 36 volt. Input voltage is 3.3 volt. Load current is, let's suppose, 0.1 ampere. Voltage ripple should not be more than 2%. The equivalent series resistance of your capacitor can be calculated with the help of this expression, where C is the capacitance. Allowed current ripple is 40% of the average value. So how to design? First of all, we will have to suppose some duty cycle. Let's suppose that is equal to 40%. So for that 40% of duty ratio, using the transfer function of the flyback converter, we can find out the required turn ratio. That comes out to be 16.36. But it should be the whole number. So let's suppose that we are going to take it 16 instead of 16.36. And then we recalculate using this expression that if we take D equal to 0.405, if we take N2 by N1 is equal to 16, and we set up our required output voltage and the input voltage, so what should be the duty cycle? Duty cycle comes out to be 0.405 with the whole number of turn ratio. Then using the expression for the average value of the magnetization current, we have all the values, and the V0 can be simply calculated as V0 by R, right? So using this expression, we can find out the average magnetization current. That will be equal to V0 by 1 minus D into R into N2 by N1, and that can be written like that. That is equal to I0 by 1 minus D into N2 by N1. So plugging in the values, the magnetization current comes out to be 2.69. And the current ripple that is allowed is 40%. So from here I can see 0.4 multiplied by the average value. So current ripple allowed is 1.08 ampere, delta ILM, the change of current through the magnetization branch. Now let's suppose the switching frequency that is equal to 100 kilohertz, and for that we calculate the required value of the inductance using the expression derived earlier. So plugging in the values, this comes out to be 12.4 micro Henry. And with this we can find out what will be the maximum value of the magnetization current by using the expression average value plus delta ILM by 2. We have the expressions, using those ones, plugging in the values, 3.23 ampere is the maximum value of the current, and similarly the minimum value of the current will be 2.15 ampere. And the delta IC, the change of current through the capacitor, as we discussed earlier, is IL max into N1 by N2, so that comes out to be 0.202 ampere. Okay, so now the acceptable voltage ripple is 2%. So our output voltage is 36. So 2% of 36 is to be calculated. So 0.02 into 36 is 0.72 volt. Then we can calculate RC, delta V0, the voltage across your capacitor, because capacitor is connected in parallel to your load resistance. So whatever will be the voltage variation allowed across the load, that is basically the capacitor variation. So 0.72 is the voltage variation across the capacitor, and capacitor current variation is 0.202. So capacitor effective series resistance is 3.56 ohm. So using this we can find out the value of the required capacitance, that comes out to be 2.8 microfarad. So we will be selecting a closest standard value of 3.3 microfarad. And the voltage ripple, if we calculate, that comes out with this value of the capacitance, 2.8 microfarad. So that comes out to be 0.04%, and it is quite less than the required one. required voltage level was just 2%. So what we have done, we have calculated the value of the magnetization, inductance, capacitance for our flyback converter. So I have arbitrarily taken this switching frequency of 100 kilohertz, and I just suppose the duty cycle of 40%. Number of designs are possible if you vary these ones. If you operate your circuit at the higher frequency, above 100 kilohertz, let's suppose 200 kilohertz, 300 kilohertz. So what will be the impact? The magnetization inductance will be changed. It will be reduced for higher frequencies. As you can see over here, inverse relationship of the frequency with the magnetizing inductance. So if we operate our circuit at the higher frequency, lower magnetization inductance will be required. Because in the flyback converter, your magnetization inductance is very important, because it is storing energy when your switch is in the on state and then delivering the energy when your switch is in the off state. So it is playing a very, very important role. Most important thing in the flyback converter is to control the magnetization inductance. Okay, now let's look at the discontinuous mode. As we have already seen, if our inductor current becomes 0 before the start of the next cycle, then it is the DCM. So our magnetization current becomes 0. Right? We have already seen the expression for the change of current through the magnetization branch. So in this case, this is delta ILM. And if we calculate the maximum value when this interval is there, when your Q is in the on state, so this will be equal to ILM maximum value, and that we have already seen is equal to Vs dt by Lm. And this current is provided by the source. So your source current will be there for this interval of time. So it is going to make a right angle triangle, and the area under this curve averaged over the time period, you will get the average value of the supply current. So as it is the triangle, so area over here can be calculated at half base into height. So what is the base? Base is dt, half base, that is dt, and what is the height? The height is equal to IL max from this equation. This is the maximum value, right? So that is Vs into d into t divided by Lm. So this is the area that you can see over here, half base into height, and dividing it by then 1 by t to take the average value over the cycle. So average supply current over the cycle, this will be equal to Vs d square by d square into t by 2Lm. That is the average supply current. Right? Okay, now considering the ideal converter, input and the output power must be equal. So the supply power is Vs into Is and the load power is V square by R. So in this, if I replace this Is with this value of the Is that we have just seen from this waveform by taking the area under this curve and dividing it by T, so using this value of the Is over here in the equation A, so I can write it like that Vs into Is, and taking the value of this Is from here, that will be equal to V naught square by R. And if I solve it for V naught, that's the output voltage in the case of discontinuous conduction mode, that will be given by this expression. Right? So this is the output voltage when our flyback converter is operating in the discontinuous conduction mode. That means that your magnetization current becomes zero before the start of the next cycle. Right? Now let's look at an example for the DCM. We are considering the previous example, but if we change the load resistance from 5 ohms to 20 ohms, now we observe by analysis that our converter will go into the DCM mode. So this is exactly same that we have already discussed. The duty cycle for the required voltages, that is equal to 0.385, considering the CCM, continuous conduction mode. The required duty cycle is 0.385. Okay, now using the same expression that we used earlier, the minimum value of the ILM, that is average value minus half of its variation. So we get this expression and we use all the values. This comes out to be minus 95 milliampere. It's negative. Can it be negative? If I go back to the circuit diagram again, over here, we can explain it from any diagram. When this switch is on, this is the path of the current, and when switch is turned off, this current is diverted over here, but always it remains downward. Direction of the current through the magnetization branch is always downward. It's always considered positive. It cannot be negative, because once the whole of the energy stored over here is delivered, the current will become zero. The current cannot flow in the opposite direction. This is not possible. So negative current is not possible in the magnetization branch in the flyback converter. So we are getting the negative current minus 95, the minimum, which is not possible. Our current will be limited to zero, and after that it will stay at the zero. Negative current will not be there. So it means our converter is operating in the discontinuous conduction mode. And if we calculate the minimum inductance that is required to keep our circuit in the continuous conduction mode, we have already derived this expression in the previous slide. So just using the values, this comes out to be 850 microhenry. And what is the given inductance? The given inductance is 500 microhenry. It is less than the minimum inductance that is required, because we have changed the resistance. For 5 ohm it is sufficient, but for 20 ohms it is not sufficient to keep our circuit in the continuous conduction mode. You can see the presence of R in this expression. So minimum inductance, if the load resistance increasing, the minimum inductance required to keep it in the continuous conduction mode, that increases, that is 850 microhenry. And our actual is 500 microhenry. It is less than that one, so our converter is operating in the discontinuous conduction mode. And for this, if I calculate the voltage, as our circuit is in the discontinuous conduction mode now, using the expression for the discontinuous conduction mode, if I calculate our output voltage is 6.53, what was our required voltage? 5 volt. This you can see over here. Is it 5 volt? No. So it means our circuit is not regulating the voltage. So if we keep the inductance less than the required inductance to keep our circuit in the continuous conduction mode, our circuit goes into the discontinuous conduction mode, and then it will not be regulating the voltage. It can only regulate the voltage in the continuous conduction mode. Right? So now if I conclude this lecture, what we have discussed? We have discussed the flyback converter in detail, and we have seen its operation for the continuous mode of operation and for discontinuous mode of operation. Means continuous current in the magnetization branch and discontinuous current in the magnetization branch. So we have discussed the flyback converter in detail. Right? So where flyback converter is used, it has number of applications. So those will be wherever you require the isolation between the input and the output. First of all, the flyback converter can be used because it is an isolated version of the buck boost converter. And with the help of buck boost, you can step up and step down. And the main component over here is the magnetization branch. That's all from this lecture. Thank you very much.